So if you're in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy and something's happened and you've decided that you want to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, do you have to dismiss the Chapter 13 bankruptcy or can you just flip it over? Watch our next video and find out. So converting a Chapter 13 case to Chapter 7 is a very common request, but there's a couple of little nuances you need to be aware of. So when clients contact us about flipping their Chapter 13 to Chapter 7, we have to look at a couple of things. The first thing we have to look at is when the client filed their Chapter 13 case, were they eligible at that time to do a Chapter 7? Now, maybe they didn't do the Chapter 7 because they were behind on their mortgage or there was another reason. Maybe their income was too high, so they went with a 13. But were they eligible for a 7 at the time they filed their 13? So if the answer is yes, no problem. We can then look and see if they qualify with income or whatnot to flip to the 7. And also if they want to, if they're going to surrender assets or whatnot. But if at the time they filed the Chapter 13, they were not eligible to file a Chapter 7, then that Chapter 13 case has to be dismissed, and then the client will have to refile a Chapter 7 case brand spanking new. Because if you weren't eligible for a 7 at the time of filing your 13, you cannot convert it later on. You would have to let that 13 dismiss and then file a new Chapter 7 case, which for most clients, other than the filing fee you have to pay again, it's not that big of a deal. But just be aware of that. So make sure if you're thinking about converting to a Chapter 7 case, that you know whether or not you were eligible at the time you filed the 13. Now, say you are eligible to convert to Chapter 7. The other thing, of course, you have to look at is, what is the change in circumstance that's making you want to file Chapter 7? And you have to file a new budget with the court. So one thing we have to stress to clients is a Chapter 7 is still a new case. You may keep your same case number, but we have to file updated schedules. There's some additional schedules that have to be filed, and there is a new court hearing. So your attorney's going to have to attend a new hearing in regards to your case. So understand, if you're going to convert to a Chapter 7, you're going to need to review to make sure, number one, that you're eligible. Once that's been determined, if you have any new bills, so let's say that since the time you filed your 13 that you have incurred maybe some medical bills, some cell phone bills, whatnot, things like that, you need to add them into your Chapter 7 case. Well, you can certainly do that, but you want to make sure that you let your attorney know so that we can get those added into the case so that those will then be discharged with the debts that you had when you had originally filed your Chapter 13. The other thing you need to be aware of is you're going to need to sign a new attorney-client agreement. Chapter 7 is a different form of bankruptcy, so you will be required to file a new Chapter 7 agreement. And of course, there are additional attorney fees because this is a separate case. So be aware of that. Sometimes clients are like, well, I already paid my fees in Chapter 13. Yes, and we did the legal work for your Chapter 13 case, but now you're wanting to do something completely new, so there will be additional fees. The good news is Chapter 7 cases are much cheaper than a Chapter 13 case, and at our firm, we will send you a conversion agreement, and we still have payment plans or whatnot, things like that. So just make sure you understand your attorney is still doing additional work. So, of course, you're going to have to pay for the additional work because we're attorneys. We don't work for free. But with that said, most attorneys I know still offer payment plans for doing the conversion so that clients can go ahead and get their case converted and work on discharging their debt. Now, the other thing you also need to remember is with a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, a Chapter 7 is a liquidation. So if you have assets that were not protected by exemptions, you could be looking at a Chapter 7 trustee liquidating those assets. So you need to make sure that you review with your attorney if you do have assets that are not protected, because a Chapter 7 trustee could most definitely be looking at selling those assets for the distribution to your creditors. So make sure you understand the mechanics of a Chapter 7 bankruptcy before you convert the case. Typically the process is we file a motion to convert the case. The conversion is usually granted in a few days. what will happen is a new trustee will be assigned, a new Chapter 7 trustee will be assigned, and a new court date. So those will go out. Chapter 7 hearings will usually be scheduled out about 30 to 45 days after the conversion. So same thing with the Chapter 13, you need to make sure that you attend your 341 hearing. We have a video on Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the process or whatnot, so definitely check that video out because of course when you convert the 7, all of those items will apply. If you have any questions about converting a case, filing a case, anything related to bankruptcy, consumer bankruptcy, don't hesitate to contact us. You can send us an email. Our information is below, and we're happy to answer any questions that we can.